Nuevamente, qué bueno que estemos ya arrancando nuestra primera sesión dentro de lo que es nuestro SDI 21 yo. Así que vamos a arrancar justamente con esta pequeña introducción que quiero presentarles a una gran persona, un gran amigo que ha venido desarrollando y trabajando mucho alrededor de las buenas prácticas. Quiero presentarles para esta primera sesión y como nuestro primer keynote speaker igual, a Paul Wilkinson. Paul Wilkinson ha estado involucrado en la industria de TI durante más de 35 años. Tiene una amplia experiencia en operaciones de TI, en gestión de TI, en innovación, en desarrollo de productos. Paul Wilkinson fue el líder del equipo de proyectos de modelado de procesos de Business and IT Excellence original de ITIL en su primera versión. También pudo colaborar como autor de ITIL en su segunda versión, ha sido miembro del grupo asesor de ITIL V3 en su siguiente valoración. Actualmente, Paul es director de desarrollo comercial de GamingWorks, una empresa que se desarrolla e implementa una variedad de simulaciones comerciales que se enfocan en la gestión de servicios, en la gestión de proyectos, alineación de negocios y DevOps. Estas simulaciones se ofrecen a través de una red global en constante expansión y organizaciones asociadas. También fue coautor y desarrollador de productos y publicaciones como el modelo de ABC, Attitude, Behavior and Culture de tecnologías de la información. Actualmente, Paul viaja por todo el mundo hablando en conferencias de eventos internacionales de las mejores prácticas de ITCM, ofrece talleres alrededor de todo el mundo, brindando simulaciones a diferentes organizaciones que adoptan las mejores prácticas y se embarcan en las iniciativas de transformación en cada una de sus diferentes iniciativas. También se encarga de capturar y trabajar con diferentes blogs, compartiendo experiencias. Entonces lo pueden buscar en muchos de los diferentes links relacionados, en donde Paul pues, comparte continuamente sus experiencias a través del mundo en estas implementaciones y modelos de simulaciones. Entonces, quiero darle una gran bienvenida a Paul Wilkinson, que nos va a acompañar en esta sesión. Él nos va a hablar de algunos detalles alrededor del mundo de la transformación, sobre todo en el esquema de aplicación de ITIL 4. Paul va a hablar en inglés, por lo tanto, pues pueden activar sus subtítulos en cada una de las sesiones para que lo puedan seguir también. Así que permítanme darle la bienvenida a Paul Wilkinson en este momento. Welcome, Paul. Thank you so much. We are very happy to having you in this conference. We are expecting a lot of your session, so welcome and all the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I heard my name a lot in that introduction. I don't know what else you said, but I heard Paul Wilkinson a few times. So I'll start sharing my screen if you can confirm that you can see this.
Yes, we can see
you can see my screen. Okay. Good morning, everybody from where you are. To me, it's 3:30 in the afternoon. So welcome to this session. I'm sorry you've got to start the day listening to English. I'll try not to speak too fast. The title of my presentation is a bit different to the one that you've got in your program. As you can see, is this the end of ITIL? Now, ITIL 4's just come out, the latest version, and next year, possibly, they're going to be taking away ITIL 3. And already the agile world and the DevOps world, they don't like ITIL. They think it gets in the way. And now ITIL 4 is starting to get criticism too. So the question is this the end of ITIL? And my answer is no, this is the end of ITIL. Now, normally I love to do these presentations in a room so I can ask a question. And the question I'd like to ask you is a business simulation game nice to have or need to have as part of your ITIL training program? Now, most people say it's just nice to have, it's just a bit of fun. And I'm going to show you today that I think a business game is need to have if you want to actually successfully get ITIL 4 to work. So in my presentation, I'm going to be showing you reasons why ITIL has been struggling and we struggle with ITIL. And these are reasons that typical ITIL training cannot and were not designed to address. But a simulation can be used. So I'm going to show you why we keep failing and why a simulation is the answer to this. I'll also be sharing concrete takeaways from hundreds of organizations and teams around the world who've used this simulation and made significant improvements. Also sharing with you feedback from one business manager, a chief executive officer, not an IT manager, a chief executive officer who said, we need ITIL 4 after going through this simulation. So let's have a look. I'll see if I can get my presentation to move. There you go. Right, first of all, let's have a look why we've been failing for so long. What are some of the challenges we need to solve? Carlos mentioned a moment ago in the introduction, ABC, attitude, behavior, culture. So I'm going to show you some of the reasons we fail. And here's my first one. I'm going to ask you a question. Unfortunately, I can't see the answers. Now, this is my second presentation today. I did a keynote here in Austria today, and I asked them the same question. I asked how many people are doing ITIL, and there was a room of 250 people, and about 80% of the hands went up. And then I asked a question. How many of you can tell me the definition of a service according to ITIL? So think about that yourself. Could you tell me the definition of a service according to ITIL? Now, in the room today, and in the 50,000 people I've asked worldwide in every one of my presentations, less than 5% of the hands go up. And I'll show you what it is. This is the definition of a service according to ITIL 4. And you can see it's all about value, outcomes, costs, and risks, but we don't know that. So this could be one of the reasons. This is the top scoring card every year, 15 years in a row. We use these cards in workshops with IT and business people to find out what are the biggest problems that need solving with IT. And here's the top one. IT has no understanding of business impact and priority. Now, this card's chosen year in, year out. You can see how old it is. The IT guy's holding a floppy disk. My daughters are 26 and 28, and they've never even seen a floppy disk. That's how old this cartoon is. And here you can see the rocket's taken off and IT has turned up with the emergency updates to the onboard navigation software. We don't understand enough about business impact and priority. Next, everything's got the highest priority according to the business, to the users. If I was a user, I would say exactly the same thing if I could see that IT doesn't understand my business impact and priority. And here's another card from the top 3 chosen in workshops. Neither partner makes an effort to understand each other. Really, we need to get together and we need a marriage guidance counselor to fix this broken relationship between business and IT. Now, typical ITIL foundation training is never going to solve this. Now, here's the new word from ITIL 4. It's all about co-creation. We cannot solve this problem without the business. Well, the question is, how many business people will actually attend an ITIL training course? I don't know any. Think for yourself. Do you ever get these stakeholders into your ITIL training? Because without them, we can never get it to deliver the value it needs to. So there's one reason traditional training won't solve it, and I'll show you how a simulation can. Now, unfortunately, I would give you this link to an article. You can click on the link and you can access this article. And this is an article that showed what a chief executive officer discovered about ITIL 4 after going through the simulation. Unfortunately, though, Axelos has removed this from the website because apparently it's not relevant or it's not needed anymore. So if you want to read this article, please send an email to Axelos and ask them, can we have access to this article, please? So this is the business side. Next, co-creation isn't just about IT and the business. Co-creation is also about working together with the agile teams and the dev teams and the end-to-end teams. But this is another top chosen card. Here's an article you can read. You can click on this if you get a copy of my presentation. And it talks about 10 teams that went through a simulation and how they discovered what does collaboration look like. We're all talking about teamworking and collaboration. And even the DevOps Skills Survey worldwide said that collaboration was the #1 missing skill getting teams to work together. And this is also one of the core guiding principles of ITIL 4. Collaborate and promote visibility. But we don't learn that in an ITIL training. So what does collaboration look like, and how do you do that? Which is one thing we cover in a simulation. Here's an article you can click on where we played a simulation at the ITSMF UK, and you can see exactly the behaviors they discovered for collaboration. Next, here's another one, another top scoring card worldwide. Plan, do, stop, no real continual improvement. Now, this is another question I usually ask at conferences, and I asked again today. 250 people in the room, I asked them, how many of you are actually doing continual improvement? Now, out of the 250, about 50 hands went up. And then I said, wait a minute, what I mean by continual improvement is strategic to operational and left to right, all the way through the organization. How many of you are doing that? 0 hands went up. We're so busy doing continual improvement in small silos, just the incident process, evaluate and improve, or within IT operations, but not end to end with the DevOps teams and the Agile teams. We don't do that. In our global surveys, less than 20% of organizations are actually doing this. And yet a DevOps survey showed that organizations that do this consistently get 29% more work done because they get rid of waste and come up with improvements. So we've got to try to teach people, what does that look like? How do you do this continual improvement? And finally, this is another top scoring card, no management commitment. Manager, here you see, you have my full commitment apart from time, money, effort, and just so long as I don't have to be involved. And lots of senior managers don't go on to ITIL training. They don't think it's for them. They think it's for their people to go on ITIL training. So if we don't get the business in the training, and we don't get the Agile and the DevOps people to go to ITIL training, and we can't get the managers to go on to ITIL training courses, then how are we possibly going to co-create value without everybody understanding how does ITIL add value? How do we work together? Now, here's another article you can click on. Knock, knock, who's there? ITIL for. ITIL for who? This is an article that explains as well what you as a manager need to do to actually help solve these attitude, behavior, culture challenges that are stopping us getting value from ITIL. So they were long-standing challenges. For the last 15 years, we've had those year in, year out, but now there's some new ones. Now, these are challenges I ask people when they attend our MarsLander simulation games. I ask them, why are you here? What do you want to learn? We've done these all around the world at IT service management events. I'm at an IT management event now in Austria, and we did another demo yesterday, and you'll see some of the results from it with a team. And I asked, why do you come to this demo? What do you want to learn? And this is what they say. We're doing Agile transformations. Our organization's adopting Agile and DevOps. And they're all complaining that ITIL gets in the way. It slows things down. They hate ITIL. Get rid of ITIL. They don't want to go on ITIL training. Next, a lot of CIOs are being put under pressure. Make IT service management more agile. But what does that look like? How do you make ITIL more agile? These are questions people come with. Or this, we've sent people onto the ITIL 4 Foundation training, but they come back complaining. It's too high level. It doesn't go down to incident, problem, and change. It's now talking about value systems, value chains, value streams, guiding principles of what are those things and how are we supposed to use them. So there's a lot of criticism that we're not learning how to use ITIL in these training. Now, a lot of people say we're not going to send everybody onto foundation training anymore because it doesn't cover the basics. Yet everybody needs to learn the basics of ITIL 4. And that again is what we can do with the simulation. So if you're not going to send people onto ITIL Foundation, Preferably you send them to foundation, then you play the game. But lots of CIOs won't send everybody to foundation, but everybody needs to get ITIL. DevOps people don't go, agile people don't go to training, business people don't go to training. So how are you going to get them to understand what ITIL is? Another one, how do we get end-to-end teams to collaborate? Dev throws it over the wall to ops, ops hates dev, the business doesn't like any of us. So how can we get these stakeholders together to start learning to work together? Conflicting business demands. There are so much work being thrown at us now, and everybody wants their work to go first. They've all said, my work's got the highest priority. There's too much work. We don't have enough resources. So how do you confront people with this? How do you deal with this? And again, that's what we can do in a simulation. And finally, this one, we're constantly being confronted with change. New changes, new business models, new technology. The world is changing so fast around us. We have to have continual improvement as a core capability. We have to continually respond and improve to the things that are changing around us. So people need to learn how to do that as well. And finally, IT needs to be more business customer focused. They're complaining that we're still too internally focused, which you saw on the first card. IT has no understanding of business impact and priority. So how can a simulation help solve this? Well, here's another article you can click on if you get a copy of the presentation. And this shows you how a team in UK learned how to answer the question, how do you make ITIL more relevant to the business? What do you need to show them? So there's another article you can read. So what is this simulation? We got this simulation called MarsLander. Now, in this simulation, the team plays the mission control team for the flight of MarsLander. And these are the roles in the game. Now that you see these roles in the game, you'll start to understand these were all the stakeholders we need to co-create value with. So in the game, we have the product owner. And the product owner is a business role. It's a sort of agile team role, a DevOps team role. And the product owner is talking to the customer relationship department, talking to the sales director. And these people are coming up with lots of new requests for new applications, new products to be built. And they're giving these to the team. Somebody plays another business role, flight operations. Now, flight operations is worried about the rocket and how it's flying, if it's working. And if it's not working, this role will be putting lots of incidents into the team. So we've got two types of work coming into the team. We've got the innovation type work, value and outcomes, and these people insisting their work has the highest priority. We have business as usual manager worried about stability, availability. I want things working, and insist that their work has the highest priority. So all of these business people are giving IT work and saying, now, mine's the most important. The team plays the service desk, trying to solve issues. If they can't solve it, they escalate to second level support, systems engineer. If they can't solve it, we escalate to third level support, which could be app dev or the vendor. And finally, when we fix things, it goes through change and release management. Now, in this game, we've got two different value streams, in fact, which is what ITIL 4 talks about. We've got the value stream of new innovation work going all the way from the business to applications to dev and ops to release. And we've got the break fix value stream. Things are broken, give it to the service desk, escalate all the way through the organization to change. So these are lots of conflicts in the game. And finally, in the game, there's the service manager. Now, this is a question I usually ask in the game, and it's one I want you to take away and think. I play the chief executive officer in the simulation, and I now suddenly say to this person, you as service manager, what do you do? What do you actually bring to my organization? Because these people, I understand, they solve issues, they engineer and build things, they build applications, they make changes happen. What is your added value to my company? Now, I've never had a service manager able to answer that question in terms of what the chief executive officer wants to hear. They'll usually say things like, yeah, we're going to make everything efficient and effective. Well, wait a minute, that's what my product owner does. Make sure that things are efficiently and effectively flowing through the company. We make sure that you get quality, but that's what my product owner does with the applications team, engineering teams. They build in product quality. That's what Agile's all about, building in product quality. So what else you do? We make sure your service levels are achieved, but that's what my product owner does. So you can see that we've got a lot of trouble explaining how does this role fit into this new environment of product owners, agile teams. So these are the roles we put in the game, and they're all the different stakeholders that ITIL talks about. ITIL says you have to co-create value with these types of stakeholders. Now, it's great because in a game, what you can do is you can put a real application development manager on the service management role, or you can put a real business person on the service desk role. You can switch people from their normal daily job and let them play a different role in the simulation so that they suddenly get to experience, oh, now I know why you keep asking those difficult questions. So it's a good way of swapping roles around. The simulation basically plays in a number of game rounds, which is launching the rocket, flying to meet a comet, sending data back to the mission control center, and we sell it as products and services into the market. And we get requests for new products and services, which we upload as the rocket's flying. Then we do 2 orbits around Mars the next game round, and finally we land on Mars at the end. So this is the way the game is built up. But the most important bit is this. Between every game round, the teams get to practice, progress iterative with feedback. What just happened? What went well? Why did things fail? What can we do to stop them failing the next time? So teams actually get to learn and practice together as an end-to-end team. How do we get together and listen to each other and come up with improvements? And this is a core capability that they're actually building as they play the game. Now, this is not a capability you can build in an ITIL foundation. You can tell people the theory, this is called progress iteratively with feedback, but only when you put people in a room together, you say, oh, it's broken. Okay, what do we do now? How do people make agreements? How do they listen to each other? How do they prioritize improvements? Everybody wants everything improved, but you can't. You've got to make choices. This is the next question I ask. And I asked this again at the conference today. 250 people, I asked them how many are doing ITIL. 85% of the hands went up. I asked them how many have done ITIL training. Most of the hands went up. I said, how many of you can name the guiding principles? 0, apart from 2 trainers. And I said, well, wait a minute. I've done this exercise with chief executive officers, and they said the most important part of ITIL is the guiding principles. So the business gets it, but we don't. How come we can go on ITIL Foundation training, do 40 multiple choice questions just to get the exam, but we don't understand what are the critical success factors to make ITIL work? And this is one of them, the guiding principles. And we get to practice these in the simulation. What we do in the simulation is we learn to translate these into actual behaviors. For example, this one. What does collaborate and promote visibility actually mean? I asked the team yesterday, these are the results from a team yesterday. What will I see you doing that demonstrates effective collaboration. And they came up with this flip over. They made a flip over. We prioritize based on goals. We confirm that everybody understands what they're to do. We stick to our agreements. We offer and ask for help. We give each other feedback. So we made this flip over. And then before we started the game, I said, is this the way you now want to actually collaborate in real life in your organizations? Yes, yes. Okay. Are you now going to do this then in this simulation? Yes, yes. I said, okay, let's play the game then. And you can now show me how you do this. So this is one example at the start of the simulation. This was from yesterday's photo. Look at this. Here on the right, suddenly is the business team, the product owner, sales director, and the service manager, all getting together, making agreements as to how they work together. This is the IT team, the other side of the room. Immediately when we started the game, they split into them and us, business, IT. The service manager made lots of agreements about the goals and the value and what we're trying to achieve. Meanwhile, these people had all developed ITIL processes, practices. This is the way the incidents are going to go, and this is how changes are going to go. There was no relationship whatsoever between these two teams. And then I said, okay, let's start the game now then. You've designed your processes, let's start the game. Here's a picture of a team actually playing the game. Does this look like people are collaborating? This is what you're seeing here. Have we finished my business feature yet? Asks the business team. What happened to my customer feedback? Asks the other business manager. IT said it would be released, but we don't know. We've got no idea because nobody's given us any feedback. We may miss the comet. The data's out again, asks another business person. Look at this guy here. The application manager has got his back against the whole team and is building a new application feature. This is the change management team. The change calendar's full. What are all these releases? No idea. Let's do this one first. We've got so many changes to do. Here's the problem manager at the back. Which of these problems should we be solving? There's the incident manager, service desk. Well, I've solved all these incidents within the service level. And this was Kaima Karu in this game. This was the ex-owner, product owner of ITIL. He took part in this and he played the service manager. What about my backlog of service improvements? Hello? Hello, is anybody listening to me? And here you can see absolute zero collaboration. Nobody was following the agreed list of behaviors. They said, this is what we're going to do. When I asked them afterwards, what happened? Chaos, confusion. Nobody stuck to the agreements. Nobody knew what the goals were. And I said, wait a minute, look at your flip over. You said, this is the way we want to work. Who owns this flip over? Who owns these behaviors? And the team said, we do. And I then asked, who is the we that was giving each other feedback when you could see we weren't following the procedures? Nobody. Who do I blame? I said. The managers, they said. The managers should be correcting the behavior. And I said, no, wait. You said, not a manager, there's no manager in the room. You said that's how you want to collaborate. We listen to each other, we help each other, we know. You said that's what you wanted to do. No manager. And now you're not doing it. You're not giving each other feedback. And now you're blaming the managers for the fact that you're not doing what you said you were going to do. So this is how we confront people in the game. And then we ask them, what are you going to do differently next game then? Let's start practicing giving each other feedback. Let's start practicing. If you can see people need help, go and ask them if they need help. So people are slowly starting to translate the behaviors into real life. Then the worst thing that happens in every single game is this. The chief executive officer now comes in and asks a simple question. Did we achieve the goals? Remember the guiding principle, focus on value. Did we achieve the goals is what I ask every team at the end of the first game round. And these are the answers. Goals? What goals? Because remember, they were all so busy building their processes and practices and procedures, nobody talked to the business to find out what are the goals. And the business didn't even know they should have shared the goals with us. They don't know why we need the goals. We know we need the goals to be able to prioritize work. So this happens in a simulation. At the end of the simulation, I show them the scores. This is what you've just done. Oh yeah, revenue, customer satisfaction, solving time. Oh yeah, okay. And then I ask a question. Is this good or bad? Well, it looks okay. I think revenues could be better. Well, customer satisfaction looks okay. It could be better. They all think until I show them this. These were the goals. Now suddenly it doesn't look so good. And I said, how come you didn't know these were the goals? So basically, you did ITIL processes, built them, ran them. You've been running around the room, chasing after everything, but none of you knew why we're doing it. What are we supposed to get at the end of the game round? How much revenue should we have got? How much customer satisfaction? Remember the definition of a service according to ITIL? Value, outcomes, costs, risks. We should be asking at the start of every quarter, half year, whenever we design processes, what is the value, outcomes, costs, and risks we need to achieve? How and when do we measure it? And processes and practices are only there to enable the achievement of that value. So the team starts to learn we need to translate that. What we then do is we give them a bit of ITIL theory. And here's some ITIL theory. Just look at my watch to see the timing. This is the new service value system model. I think this is the best model to come out of ITIL, and I'll tell you why. The most important word on this whole model is this one on the right, value. And as you can see, nobody knows the definition of a service, value, outcomes, costs, and risks, and nobody talks to the business to ask them, what does value look like? On the left, there are always too many opportunities and demands, and it's never going to get better. As IT, we now need to accept we will never, ever be able to do all the work that's being given to us. It's not possible. Even worse, some of the work that's being given to us is about value and outcomes. Like in the simulation, the sales director wants revenue growth, customer satisfaction. Some of the work being given to us is about risks. I want high availability. Things must be working now. It's an important part of the mission. So the business has conflicting views on what value looks like. They're both exactly right. To them, they're absolutely right. This is my key performance target, revenue growth. And another manager says, this is my key performance target, making sure business is stable and operational and doesn't go down. They're both right, but we can't do everything. So we've got to learn, how do you balance that? Now, to balance this with this, that's why you've got the outside of this model. It's the most important part of the model. And it starts with the guiding principles. And one of those guiding principles is called focus on value. So we've got to ask ourselves, what do the guiding principles look like in terms of behavior? For example, focus on value. What does focus on value look like? What behaviors will we see people doing that shows they focus on value? For example, the business always shares with us the goals. If they don't, we ask them, what are the goals? Every IT person that's been given too much work to do asks, why should I do this piece of work first? Which value, outcomes, costs, and risks does it protect? And if I decide not to do this piece of work because I'm doing that one, what is the impact on value, outcomes, costs, and risks if I don't do this work? So these are the behaviors we want to see consistently every day that demonstrates focus on value. So that's why this is the most important. Next thing is this, continual improvement. We always know there's always things stopping this going to here, because somewhere in the middle there are improvement needs, such as in the game we said we don't know priority mechanisms, we don't collaborate, we're not working together, we didn't know that. Things always need improving, not just individual processes, but end to end. That's why it's on the outside. Continual improvement should be a core capability. So we teach people this. Then we teach people this. ITIL talks about value, outcomes, costs, and risks. The most important word in ITIL 4 is value. Why? Because we've got the service value system, service value chains, service value streams. Value, apparently, is what it's all about. But like we saw, nobody knows what value is. Here's the next thing about value. Value is the positive impact of value creation work. Now, in our game, that is things like requests, build me a new application to make money, increase customer satisfaction. Build me a new feature to raise money, customer satisfaction. So there's value creating work. There's also value leakage work. This is work that if we don't do it, causes us to lose value. Things like incidents, events, problems, negative customer feedback. Here we could lose money, lose customer satisfaction. And finally, there's another one. There's this one, the value of doing improvement work. If we do improvement work, it should either get rid of value leakage or increase value creation. Now, when we do this in games with business people, they say, this is what we prioritize, or we may prioritize priority one incidents, but this stuff we don't see. We don't see the impact of this, so we don't prioritize it. And this stuff we never prioritize because IT can't explain to us why we should be doing that. So basically, value is simply this formula. This is the formula that every single chief executive officer, chief finance officer, chief operating, CIO, everybody that plays the game, this is the one thing they copy down at the end of the game. It's all about this formula. Value equals the positive impact of value creation minus the negative impact of this, plus whatever benefits we get from doing this work. So that's what we need to do. We then use this service value system in the game to get people to practice, collaborate, and promote visibility. So the first thing we get them to do is this. They've got a typical Kanban board that lots of agile teams, DevOps teams use. To do, doing, done. But then we say, wait a minute, we've got to start sorting all of the opportunities and demands out. Let's split it into the different types of value work. Value creating work, value leakage work, and all of the improvement work. Which work needs to be done in this month, next month? They start to learn to build a portfolio of all of the opportunities and demands. Then they look at all of the people in the value chain, app dev, system engineer, vendor, service desk, change. And they ask, wow, out of all of this work, how much can we actually do? Now we need to visualize this. And in the game, they suddenly realize that 20% of app dev time is wasted because of manual releases. They recognize that 40% of everything the systems engineer does is wasted. Manual testing, manual releases, manual event monitoring. Suddenly the team visualizes, collaborate, promote visibility, visualize What's stopping us doing more work? Remember, ITIL is all about value streams. Make work flow through the value streams. Here you can see this is stopping work flowing. This stops work flowing. It's a barrier. So we've got to get rid of this. When you can show this to business people in the game, you want all of this business added value work. Yeah. We can't do it. What do you mean you can't do it? We've got lots of continual improvement needs. If you don't let us get rid of this, then you're always going to get more and more and more of this building up in the backlog. But I don't want that. I've got too much important work to do. Then you've got to let us do some continual improvement work to get rid of this. The other thing that the teams learn is this. Now that we've got too much work, we can't do it all. Now we've got to know what does value look like. And in the game, they actually have things like, what are the business goals? There's a flight plan which says, what are the critical business moments? What are the critical business functions? And what is the risk to the business when something's not working at the right time? This is used to help prioritize all of the leakage work. They've got the service level agreement and they can see what the future goals are. Suddenly they stick all of this on the board. Visualize what does value look like? What are the goals? Now the team themselves is able to look at, this is the complete backlog of work. These are the goals and this is what value looks like. We can't do it all because of this. The other thing they need to look at is, what does current value look like? It could be that revenue is looking good, but customer satisfaction is going down. So each game round, in reality, that could be each 3 months, each quarter, or each half year. What value have we delivered? What was the value we're trying to deliver? And how do we now need to reprioritize work for the next quarter? Is revenue still the biggest driver, or is it now risk or compliance or lowering costs? Value changes over time. And that's what you need to know so that you can prioritize. Teams then realize, basically, this should be built into your service management tools, your Jiras and your ServiceNow. If you've got a ServiceNow tool, you should be able to do this. Document the full portfolio of work, document service levels, document critical business timing, critical SLAs, document the goals, map the work back to each of these goals. As work flows through the system, identify who's working on each piece of work. Teams learn in the game now, wait a minute, this is really complicated in reality. We've got Jira, ServiceNow, Slack, CI/CD. We've got lots of tools managing this. And one thing they learn is, maybe we need to look at something like IT for IT. How can we integrate this? Most teams take this away. We don't actually have this portfolio for each of our teams. Let's build something like this for each of our teams. Visualize key goals. Often after I played this with the business managers, a chief executive officer came down the next day into operations and actually plugged the key goals and key performance targets onto every single team board and said, there you go, guys, these are our goals. Look at all the work you've got. Now you know which work we need for the goals. Teams started doing this. Let's visualize what's stopping work flowing. Let's try to identify what we need to improve. Progress iterative with feedback. What can we improve? That's what teams learn in this. This is a value stream, an example of a value stream. I call it the value whirlpool. This is often, so here's an example, and this is something that you can all do back in your own work. Pick up a piece of work, any work, pick up a project, a change, pick up a piece of work you usually do. Now, this is the ITIL service value chain. Now, let's see how a piece of work typically goes through. It's called a value stream. But typically what I see in organizations is really a value whirlpool. What happens is this: we're given a piece of work and the product owner engages with app dev. We need to build this piece of work. We now need to look at the plan, the goals. Should we be doing that? Is it within the goals? Now, this is a typical agile team. Yes, we're going to build the code. Then they suddenly realize they can't do this without systems engineering. We need ops, dev, ops. Now you get the first problem. Suddenly the alarm goes off. I'm not working on this. I'm busy doing something else. So values stopped flowing. So now it gets escalated back to the product owner again. We need to check the resource allocation of who's available. We find out nobody's available. It goes back to the product owner and he now insists that the systems engineer works on this. So we just had 2 moments of stop waiting. So the systems engineer builds it. Then it suddenly comes to the service manager and says, stop, wait a minute. Have we updated the service level agreement? Have we integrated this thing into the service management tool sets? It can't go live until you guys do this. The alarm goes off again. I can't update that because I'm now working on the next business feature. So it's going to have to go live without being integrated in service management. So we push it through change and release, gets to the service desk, goes live. The service desk has no longer been trained, doesn't know how to solve these issues. So the service desk has to get these people to solve the issues. Another alarm goes off. Another alarm goes off. App dev doesn't have any time to work on solving issues or teaching the service desk. So this doesn't happen. So what happens now? We push this new request project into live production and measure, did it achieve the value we hoped? But what we forget to measure is this: how many issues and incidents and events did we get? Because we didn't train people, we didn't integrate it, we didn't make sure things were built in on time. So what do? ITIL says, let's progress iteratively with feedback and try to identify what stopped work flowing fast through the value stream. But unfortunately, the alarm goes off again. I don't have time to work on your ITIL improvement projects. I'm too busy building the next release. So get a piece of work like this, map it all the way through your own organization and identify all of these red explosions that stops work flowing. Things like waiting, escalating to managers, all these things stop value streams from flowing. So that's what the team will learn in a simulation. At the end of the simulation, what we want to do now is capture. This is the most important part of the simulation. So between the game rounds, we do this. Between each game round, we ask them, what worked well? What do we need to work on? Any unanswered questions? What ideas can we try? So we start here. Why isn't work flowing? What do we need to do differently? Feedback. What can we do differently? Progress iteratively. There's teams practice this. And they try it, and they find out it's working well. So then they say, are there any new unanswered questions we've got? Is there anything new we have to work on? So teams are doing this all the way through the day, progress iteratively with feedback, progress iteratively with feedback. At the end of the day, we ask them, what did you apply today in this game? What were all the things you did? Did it make a difference to performance? Yes. Every time we went through this exercise, we could see revenue improving, customer satisfaction improving. Okay, so what did you do and what do you need to take away? And at the end of the day, this is the most important things. What are you going to do differently? And what do we now need to take away based upon our learning in this simulation? This is translating theory into practice, into actionable actions that everybody wants to take away. real actions. Finally, what is the overall value here? This is takeaways from most companies. What we do, they say, we now need to prioritize the different types of work: value creation work, value leakage work. We've now got to make sure that we have the governance layer, which is the business agrees to balance value creation work and value leakage work. For each type of work, we now need to map how it flows all the way through the system. Now, to do that, we collaborate and get all of the end-to-end players together to map each value stream of each piece of work, because they've learned to do that in the game. They didn't learn in a foundation, but they now know how important it is to do that. At the same time, start where you are. Why can't we get work to flow quickly now? Let's start applying progressive iterative feedback, small iterative fixes to make work flow quicker, better each time, but each time improving, making it go a little bit quicker and a little bit better with less errors. And at the same time, we need to measure the business value and actually measure that every time you do improvements, value is improving and waste is going down. So that's what teams take away. And as one chief executive officer and her CIO said, we're bringing the learning points to life. This was such a significant enabler for us. We're actually starting to see big benefits by just applying these things. And yet they've been on ITIL training and the business have been complaining about ITIL for years, but just putting the businesses in one game for one day got total buy-in from the business. So there you go. That's how a simulation can help. And as somebody said, it's not rocket science. It makes sense. We can start using this tomorrow. So thanks for the presentation, letting me present. I'll stop sharing now and go back to Carlos to see whether there's any questions that need answering.
Thank you so much, Paul. Yes, so we have a question over here. Maybe you can check it, or if you want, I can read it. It's on the...
Yeah, can you read it? I can't see it.
Okay. The question says, it is possible for an IT area to add value to the organization, even if the organization has not a clear understanding of where it's heading forward. No vision, no mission, no strategy. How can internal departments align where there are no days of alignment?
Okay, you're right. Really what you need is a good business strategy with strategic goals.
Yes, business strategy.
Mm-hmm. So really you need that. But if you don't have the strategy and you don't have the goals, this is what I recommend to everybody in IT. This is what I used to do. Go and sit down next to your business users and ask them, what's stopping you getting value? How do you use our systems? How do our systems enable you to do things better, faster, cheaper? And if systems go down, what's causing you the most pain? And if you could ask IT to improve one thing, what would it be? Go and ask every business user this. What would be the one thing that you want to improve? Come up with a list of all of the pain points for the business. We're losing money because of this. We got downtime because of these. Losing customer satisfaction because of this. Sorry. Start finding out what needs fixing. Then go back to the business and say, look, we've talked to your business people, not us. This is what you need fixing. We've now got this ITIL stuff. If we apply this bit of ITIL, we can make that wasted cost go away. Look, you're losing customer satisfaction because of this. If we do this, customer satisfaction is going to go up. Now, we could do lots of things, but we can't do them all at the same time. So help us try to understand now, if you had to choose which one of these would be the most important one that you want us to start on. Is it cost, value, outcomes, risk? That way you're starting the business to think themselves about having a strategy and having goals. That's the only thing you can do if they haven't already got one. Show them our added value and show them we understand the pain they're going through, or we understand how IT can make things better for them. Value, outcomes, costs, and risks.
That's great.
There you go.
Very good answer. We have another one that says, what recommendation can you give us to change the culture of the organizations towards value orientation?
Towards what?
Value orientation.
Value. Towards a value
orientation. Yes.
Value orientation.
Yes.
Okay. Part of that answer is what I just talked about. Send everybody into the business and ask them, how does the work contribute towards increased value, increased whatever? So go and start asking those questions. Always go back and talk to the business and ask them what their goals are. The other thing I do is this. I would put the definition of a service in every single room and department in the IT organization. Pin it up next to every coffee machine. Value, outcomes, costs, and risks. And every time you're talking to anybody now at the coffee machine, or you meet people in the corridor, you say to them, value, outcomes, costs, and risks. What's the most important one for us in our organization? What do we think ITIL's trying to achieve for our organization? And they probably won't know. And then you need to show them. The reason we're doing ITIL is this: value. We want to increase customer satisfaction. Okay, how is what you're doing in your work increasing customer satisfaction? So make it visible and keep talking about it all the time. The other thing you can do to get that value concept is when you've got an IT person who's got two bits of work to do and they don't know which one to do first, have the discussion. You've got two bits of work to do. Which one are you going to do? This one. Why are you going to do that? Explain to me in terms of value, outcomes, costs, and risks, why you're doing that piece of work first. Now explain to me the bit of work you've decided not to do. What is the impact on value, outcomes, costs, and risks when you don't do it? Now they'll usually say, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, go and find out. Go and ask the questions of the people that gave you that work, or go and ask the person that you're not going to do the work for, what is the impact if we don't do this? Then you'll start slowly changing the culture because everybody start talking about it.
That's great. We have some other question, but I guess we are on time. So I will send you these questions so we can answer after.
Yeah, send me the questions and I'll answer them in a small document and send them back to you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Paul. Always we need more time to keep talking with you. So you have a lot of information that you can share with us. So we are very happy to have in this year conference. We hope we can do the same the next year, but you can travel to Ecuador one more time. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for all of your information. Thank you so much for all of your knowledge. So we are very happy to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, and good luck everybody with the rest of the conference. And I hope you get some great learning points to take away. Thanks everybody.
Muchas gracias a todos, que tengan un muy buen día. Nos vemos en las siguientes sesiones que están arrancando en unos minutos. No se olviden, tenemos ahora sesiones simultáneas, una de ciberseguridad y también otra de aplicando las buenas prácticas en herramientas, que igual están a cargo de excelentes expositores que van a estar a continuación. Nos vemos en las siguientes sesiones, que tengan una muy buena tarde. Estén pendientes también de nuestras redes sociales, estamos ahí actualizando alguna información de nuestros sponsors, van a haber algunos sorteos interesantes, así que pues estamos en contacto en las siguientes. Que tengan una muy buena tarde.